G'day, guys. How many we got here? Got two of you here this morning. We're a bit too early, are we? It's what time are we at? 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning here. I've had a few people ask about different premieres and stuff, and I'll send them off a little bit early in the morning. Most of the viewers that we have on this channel here are American, so I try and time things to suit that audience. Yeah, we'll get a few more here. We'll wait till we get a few more people here, guys. We'll get into it. Where are you guys from? G'day, Aiden. I'll just get my stuff organised here. So what we're going to talk about today is a few things. You may have seen it in the notes that I've put on the live session here. Is some of the rumours around the iPhone 13 or 12s, depending on what they're going to call it. I've read both. We'll talk a little bit about the Pixel as well, the new Pixel, the Pixel 6. They're also doing a Pixel 5 Pro or 5XL Pro or something like that. And oddly enough, the Google Pixel, they're not really putting that many rumours out, which is unusual for them. I've got a few questions here that are appearing regularly on videos that I'm doing, and I'll give you guys an update on where I am with these two and where we're at with moving from this over to this. There's certainly a few little hiccups that I've come across, and we'll talk about them when we get there. G'day, Chris. The iPhone 13, for people who have watched my channel for a while, especially when I started doing other cameras, other phones besides the iPhone, and I kind of went that way because there's like technology out there. I like to compare different other questions. Mainly, please don't forget us Apple peeps. What are you talking about? The last two videos were Apple, and the next video is Apple. Calm down. When I started talking about other phones, I kept on talking about we all win. You know, there's different manufacturers and they all do different things. And around that, I also said about there's no perfect camera yet. I don't think there's a phone that has the perfect camera setup yet. And even there's no perfect phone, I guess, is what I'm saying. Is even with this Samsung phone, there's definitely parts of that I can't quite get my head around liking it yet. There are things that the Apple phone does, the iPhone does, that I think does it better than what the Samsung does. The saving grace, if you like, with the Samsung, in my opinion, is the fact that you can shoot fully manual. And that's why we're getting such awesome photos of the Milky Way and stuff with that phone, because we can shoot manual. Because the night mode on this versus the night mode on this, I've got a video coming out, not next video, but the one after, and this kind of sucks. This is really good at night mode, but this isn't. Using the night mode, using manual mode, obviously it just kills it. It does a really good job, but in night mode, it doesn't do that well, I don't think. But you'll see when I shoot this video. I've taken that many samples, and I've carried both phones in my pocket for the last 2 weeks, just shooting night mode photos early in the morning when I'm getting in cows and stuff for milking. And I'll tell you what, the iPhone is just, it's so much better in what I've seen so far. Bloody legend. I really enjoy all these videos. Hope there'll be a lot more at S21. You'll get both. In fact, there's a video that I'm shooting shortly. Tom, I don't know if you guys can read that. Can you read that? That's actually the list of videos that I'm shooting. With the Pixel's up there as well. I've got a couple more videos on the Pixel coming up as well. What's the problem you have with S21 Ultra? Well, we'll talk about that at the end. But there's no problem as such. It's a good phone. I'm still using it. I take both phones out and shoot both phones. When I try something, I shoot both. But that night mode, it's really not good on the S21 Ultra compared to the Apple. But anyway, you'll see lots of examples of that in a video, not this at the end of next week. My main question is, Shane, do you think Apple will introduce it dedicated? Yes. So let's talk about that. Chris, So what I've done over the last few weeks, I watch a lot of YouTube, like you guys are sitting here watching me now, but I watch a lot of rumor videos. Some of them are just, quite frankly, they're bullshit. There's nothing in it that's factual. They're just making shit up. And I read a lot of different web pages like Tom's Guide and Mac Rumors and things like that. And those guys have usually got their finger on the pulse a bit better than what some bloke in his study is telling you what's going on. But the iPhone 13, or 12s, depending on which one you're looking at, it's going to be a little bit bigger than what the 12 is. And when I say a little bit, I'm talking about, like, they're talking about a tenth of an inch or some bloody thing. So it's negligible. One of the things they're talking about is having no charging port, like that down there, that little port there. They're talking about not having that. And to be fair, I charge both of these phones on a wireless charger. I just sit them on there at night and they're fine. So I kind of get that. The notch is going to be shorter. I don't really care too much about that sort of thing. We're talking about that notch up here is going to be shorter. Who cares? I don't. They're going to have a 120 megahertz screen, which is good for editing. You may have remembered what I talked about in when I swapped from that to that as my daily phone. The editing of videos on the S21 Ultra I find is smoother, and I think that has to do with the 120 megahertz screen. The refresh rate is really quite impressive, and I think if the Apple phone did that, that would certainly resolve that. Their processor is quite good, so it should all be fine in that regard. So let me read some of this stuff here. Astro mode, we'll talk about that in a second. Yep, got you there, Jennifer. I'll talk about that in a second. Just brought this recently. I know you can turn off the iPhone Smart HDR feature in settings. Allow true 30 seconds night mode. Right. So short answer to that question, Reese, is no. I've tried that both ways. So the question there was, if we turn off HDR or the Smart HDR on the iPhone using night mode, are we going to get a true 30 seconds? The answer is no. I've tried it both ways, and the way that the night mode works, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about night mode and we're talking about HDR, and then you've got there's another thing with Apple. I can't think of what it's bloody well called. Doesn't matter. It doesn't work in this anyway. But with night mode is separate to HDR. The way that it works is very similar. It's in that it stacks different exposures, but it's not a HDR photo as far as the algorithm works in the phone. Let's get back to this iPhone 13. What there is a lot of talk about is that all of the 13 phones will have the same size camera notch or camera bezel as what the 12 Pro does. So that's kind of cool. Which is a big camera. So most of the stuff, my earlier stuff on this channel here, I was shooting with the iPhone 11 Pro, and I was reluctant to go to the 12 because it wasn't that much of a difference, but it was. When I went and I had a look, a friend of mine's got a 12 Pro. We went and shot some astrophotography with that, and there was a difference. There was definitely a difference. And when I went to the 12 Pro Max at night, there was definitely a difference. So if you're someone who's got, say, an 11 or earlier, the 13 would certainly be something worth looking at, based purely on the camera size, because the pixels will be larger. And if you're watching this channel, chances are you're shooting a lot of light stuff. So it would make sense that, well, you would jump up to that one if you were waiting. Whether you would go from, say, right now, if you had, say, an 8 and you went to, say, a 12, I would potentially wait until this came out, the 13 came out. And the reason for it is that someone's already asked about it, is scene detection. Scene detection. I'll talk about that in a second. Someone's already asked about the astrophotography mode, and that's one of the biggest things that's going to change. And these rumors seem consistent across the platforms that I rely on. there's a few things around the camera that I think is going to be quite interesting to see. One is it's going to have a larger pixel size, so those micrometers are going to be larger. So the video I talked about, the number of pixels versus the pixel size is in the bucket and how much light that bucket can catch. That's important for astrophotography and low light photography. And we're talking about, I think it's 1.9 micrometers versus 1.7 that's out there now. So that little bit, it will make a bit of a difference. But having a dedicated astrophotography mode, now they're not talking about a night mode. And the night mode, as you probably already realize, is that they stack different exposure or different brightnesses, if you like a HDR photo. But have a dedicated astrophotography mode, I suspect it's going to be more like a pixel. They haven't released anything to say, or nobody's actually leaked anything to say what that astrophotography mode will be. But to say that it's astrophotography mode versus a night mode, every other manufacturer that has an astrophotography mode, or say the Pixel, for example, has a night mode and an astrophotography mode. I suspect it's going to be like that. So if you had an astrophotography mode plus a larger sensor, we're getting pretty close to having a perfect camera here as far as I'm concerned. They've also talked about a 10 times zoom, and that is a periscope lens, just like what's on the S21 Ultra, as in the horizontal mirrors and then the horizontal lenses and then the mirror, 90-degree mirror, which is why we can shoot ridiculous moon photos with this bad boy with 100 times zoom. So the rest of it is digital. And oddly enough, they're looking to license that from Samsung. Let's talk about 1 terabyte storage. All of the iPhone 13s are looking to have LiDAR sensors on them, which is really good for low light photography, not astrophotography, obviously, but low light photography with people and vehicles and subjects and things like that you want to photograph. So I think that's pretty bloody cool. The Pixel, I'm hearing the iPhone 13 Pro will have a sensor shift. Haven't heard that. Greg, are you talking about sensor shift? Are you talking about like a tilt shift sort of thing? Is that what you mean? A tilt shift lenses? I'm not sure. I haven't heard that anyway. I haven't read that anywhere. The question was, he's hearing that iPhone 13 Pro, maybe all 13 models, will have a sensor shift for the ultra-wide camera. Sensor shift. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Can you elaborate a little bit, mate? The Pixel, this is the odd thing. Pixel has been, historically, Pixel has been just bloody horrendous when it comes to leaking stuff. You tend to know more about the Pixel coming out in all of the Pixels that have ever come out after stabilization. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, stabilization in all the in the iPhone 12 is actually pretty good. In the ultra wide, okay. I haven't heard that. That makes sense though. It would make sense. I don't know why you wouldn't need that though. With an ultra wide sensor, it's not going to pick up movement as obvious as, say, like a telephoto sensor. I'm not sure why they would. I haven't read that anywhere anyway. No, same as the in-body sensor stabilization. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. It would only be good for video, I guess. And I shoot video with the ultra wide on the 12 Pro now, and to be honest, I haven't noticed any problem because it's ultra wide. But when you're moving ultra wide lenses, that you can move it a little bit, but it's not going to be as enhanced, if you like, as a telephoto lens. Any sort of like zoom lens, any movement is going to be exaggerated at what you're looking at. Whereas a wide angle lens, well, it's not as bad. Maybe they're doing it, I'm not sure. But I shoot a lot of video with my wide angle on the 12 Pro Max, and I've never had a problem. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure, man. I can't answer your question. Sorry. The Pixel 6. There's little information. They're talking about a 5XL at the moment, which appears to have the same camera. The Pixel 6. Now, anyone who's watched the videos that I do with the Pixel, you know that the astrophotography on this thing is just nuts. It's bloody incredible, and that's all to do with the software. The Pixel camera hardware hasn't changed since, I think, Pixel 2. I may be wrong, might be Pixel 3, but it's been the same bloody camera for a long time, and they've just made the software better and better and better. But I've always said if they made the hardware better and put that software on it, bloody hell, you'd have a kick-ass camera then. But so far, all the leaks that I'm finding is all around the front-facing camera, the selfie camera, like up here. And because there's no notch, if you like, what you can see, well, you probably can't see because of the wallpaper I've got on there, but up above that lock there's a hole there on the S21, and obviously you've got the notch on the iPhone. But on the Pixel 6, it appears that it's going to be behind the display, sort of front-facing camera. What about the back-facing, so the main camera? There's really nothing. There's nothing solid about we're going to do this. There's a little bit of talk about they're going to use a Sony sensor, and the Sony sensor has a pretty bloody big pixel size. It's talking about a 2.1 micrometer or something like this. So that's bloody huge. So watch this space, I guess. The main talk has really been around the front of it, the front-facing camera. So I guess we'll stay tuned for that one. Let me just read some comments here, guys. Stabilization, yeah, I think it's been the same since the two. Oh, okay, yep, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Nathan. iPhone sensors with Google's yeah, no shit, man. That would be awesome. However, the astrophotography mode that's coming out, that's rumored to be coming out on the 13, Sava, I think we could well have that. The perfect phone may well be on the way. I hope it's not under display. I don't think that tech is ready yet. Another manufacturer like XMT or something, the model was. I read about that, and it wasn't very good. So yeah, I tend to agree, mate. If the technology's there, do it. But if you're just doing it for a gimmick and a bit of a marketing thing, don't do it. We're losing then, and you'll probably lose market share doing that. Apple know they need to compete. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Huawei. I don't know how you pronounce that bloody thing. I'm useless when it comes to that sort of stuff. Yeah, the sensor on the P50 that's rumored to be coming out is going to be huge, and the massive downside of that is that I'm a little bit reluctant to go and buy one because most of the viewers that watch this channel are Americans, and you guys can't even get that phone there. So it'd be a bit of a a shit act for me to go, look at this bloody awesome thing, and you can't get it. So I think I probably will end up doing it because, well, not everyone's over there. Like, there's plenty of people here in Australia, and when I go through my analytics on this channel, there's a lot of people in the UK and all through Europe, India. They're all over the world, but just the big chunk of them are Americans. So I tend to play to that big market. But if it's that good, I'm probably going to do it anyway, to be fair. For low light, check the story about the sensor shift thing. It's reportedly wide camera on all 13 models. Huawei. Thanks, man. Bloody legend. There you go. I learned something today. Huawei. So whereabouts are you, Nathan? It's here. The other thing with the Huawei phones is the Google backup. Like, how do they work? Anyone who's actually got a Huawei phone, let me know. How do you? Okay. So where do they get apps and stuff from? I'm totally ignorant on how they work, because what I'm seeing is that they have no app store as such. They've got to have something, because you've got to get programs and apps and stuff to go onto the phone. But about that P50, it's reportedly got the biggest pixel size on any camera that exists on the market right now. So for astrophotography, that could well be the king, if you like, especially if we're doing manual mode, which I know it has. The downside about, thanks, mate, no Google Play services available. Yeah, right. So how do they get their apps? Anyone know? How do Huawei get apps onto the phone? Hey, Pilot Sharks, how you doing, man? So where was I? The perfect phone, even with that Huawei phone, it's still not going to be a perfect phone, and that's kind of what annoys the hell out of me. You can do something incredibly well, like the Pixel does the astrophotography incredibly well, but it does other things not so well. Anyway, that's the rumor mill dealt with. Let's have a chat about some of these questions that I get asked a lot. There's a lot of questions that I get. I don't know if you guys are regular readers of the comments on most of the videos. It's one of my more entertaining things of the day. So my days usually, I wake up early. I'm an early riser. That's an old army thing. I'm usually out of bed at like anywhere between 3:30 and 4:30 in the morning, and I don't actually go and do my day job, which I do 3-4 days a week, depending on the week, sort of thing. That's on the dairy farm, which is why you see lots of photos of what I do with tractors and cows and that sort of stuff. But most of every morning I get out of bed, go make coffee, come and sit in front of this here, or I'll go for a walk first, depending on what's going on. And I read through my comments and I answer the comments. And I watch that you guys comment on other people's comments and stuff. And they have their own. Thanks, Chris. They have their own operating system. So does that mean they have their own apps on that Huawei phone? So I sit down here and I go through the comments and I get to the point where I just stop answering some of the questions because they've been asked, 30 times before. So then that ends up leading to another video, and then I just link people to that video. But what I do for these sessions, I basically write down a heap of questions that I get asked all the time, and then I answer it here if you like. Just let me read some of these questions before I go on. You can jailbreak and load Android. Yeah, righto. See that the jailbreaking thing, when iPhones first came out and people went, "Oh, I want to get out of that iOS sort of environment and do other things." That's when jailbreaking, as far as I was, when I first saw it, was around that sort of thing. But and I look at that and I go, well, the manufacturer made it a certain way. The Huawei phone, the P50, it's rumored to be like 1,600 Australian dollars to buy this phone. So it's not a cheap phone either. It's like the flagship as well. And I look at that and what you're saying right there, and I get what you're saying, but I look at that and I go, I've just spent all this bloody money on a phone, and I wanted to do this shit without me having to reprogram the phone. That's how I look at it. I don't think that's right. You can get Google apps on them, but a little bit of a workaround. Sorry you're late, Wild Astro. Where the hell you been? Just joking, dude. Yeah, okay. So it looks like the phone's going to be a good phone as far as the camera goes, and I know it's going to be good. But all the specs, they're not shy about releasing what is going to do. But for the rest of the phone, well, for $1,500 or $1,600, I'm going to go buy a bloody camera. Put in those kids. Righto. So some of the questions that I've been asked about regularly. Topic for end of chat. What are your thoughts on add-on lenses on? Jennifer, I don't use them. I just don't. So way back early, I've got an iPhone 10 on charge in the other room, and it's only got the one little lens on it. And in that environment, for me personally, I go, let's go back a little bit. All the stuff that I teach with photography, regardless of the camera that you're using, regardless of the style of photography that you do, I'm always about doing things on the cheap. In saying that, on this channel here, I'm playing with all some of the flagship phones because they're the biggest sellers of those phones. So, and it makes sense. But for most of what we do on this channel, it's all backward compatible. So For example, the video that I did shooting my brother-in-law's old Chevy Ute up in Queensland, and I shot that on the 12 Pro Max. There is nothing that I did in that video that you couldn't do on all of the iPhone 12 cameras. But so with that, I'll look at what the question here, guys, is talking about the different lenses and sandmark lenses and moment lenses and stuff like that. One, they're quite expensive, and two, are they going to make you better? And my honest opinion is no. You should be able to take good photos out of a phone that has 3 different fields of view. You should be able to do that. With the exception, and the only exception that I can say to this really, is a macro lens. And if you're into macro photography, the phones just don't do that as they are there. There are apps that do it, and I've done reviews on Camera Plus 2 app, and it has a macro photography element to it, but it's just zooming, using the telephoto lens and compressing it. The lenses that you're talking about here with the sandmark and the moment lenses, from all accounts, they're very, very good products. I'm one of these people who are reluctant to go and buy something because everyone unanimously says they're fantastic and no one says they're bad. And that's just the nature of us as people. We always find something bad. Look at the review, look at the comments that I get when I called that Samsung S21 ugly. People went off their freaking rocker because this bloke said it's ugly. It's my honest opinion. And there is not a product that exists in the world where everyone says it's perfect. And that's what I'm finding with all these lenses. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but to answer your question, Jennifer, I think if you can't take good photos with what's already coming out of one of these flagship phones with the wide, the ultra wide, the wide, and the telephoto lens, and the zoom lenses on the other cameras, you probably should master that, I think, before you go and buy something else. On all of the photography groups on Facebook, for example, the mobile photography groups on Facebook, people ask, what app can I get to take a better photo? No app is going to make you a better bloody photographer. It just doesn't happen. In fact, the video I've got coming out Monday afternoon, what I've done, I've gone and spent $30 freaking on all these different photography apps, camera apps, and I've gone and taken exactly the same photo with all these apps. Spoiler alert, I can't tell the bloody difference in any of them. They all take the same freaking photo. It doesn't make you any better. What makes you better is taking lots of photos. The gear doesn't make much of a difference. I don't know if putting lenses onto your phone is going to make you better. Let me just read this. I hope that answers your question. Sorry if that was a bit of a rant. The macro lens is amazing. Thanks, Greg. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, there's a limitation on the phones that putting say a wide angle lens onto this phone, is it going to make a difference when it's already got one? I'm not convinced. And the wide angle lens on the iPhone 12, for example, it's freaking wide. Actually, both of those phones, they're really wide lens. I don't know if putting another wide angle lens onto that is going to make much of a difference. If you're going to put a telephoto lens onto it, it's only 1 or 2 or 6 times anyway, so it's not that great. I personally wouldn't find that much of a use for them. Let me just read this. Could I do a review on astrophotography on a regular iPhone 11, not a Pro? I'm not sure offhand if the 11 has night mode, and if it does have night mode, it'll be the same. And if it doesn't have night mode, Nightcap app will do it anyway. They're your 2 go-tos. With the iPhone, you've either got Nightcap app for phones that don't have night mode, or you've got night mode for the phones that do have night mode. And I've definitely done reviews already on the iPhone 10 with Nightcap app, and it'll be exactly the same if it doesn't have night mode. I'm not sure if it does, and I don't have one to test. Sorry, guys. Jude. Sorry, dude. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but that's your answer, dude. So either got night mode and use it that way, and it's exactly the same as the videos that I've done, or use Nightcap app and it's exact night. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mark. So iPhone 11 does have night mode. It's exactly the same. follow all the things that I've shown you in every other video using night mode with astrophotography. It's exactly the same. There's more people coming in and more questions, so I guess I'll just be reading this for a second. Got a really, really cheap macro lens from Amazon for my phone. It does surprisingly well. Yeah, cool. That makes perfect sense to me. So Reese is saying he's got a really cheap lens from Amazon, macro lens, and if he does focus bracketing, it works fine. And focus bracketing with macro, well, that's pretty common with macro anyway. You probably would be doing that anyway. Thank you, dude. Just doesn't have to. Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, Mark. What do I think about the macro lens on the S21 Ultra by using the ultra wide camera? Haven't used it yet, to be honest. And I'll be perfectly open with you and say that I didn't know it did that. The S21 Ultra. I'm going to try that. I'm just going to make a note here and try that. I don't do much macro photography. I did one video on it way back early in the piece because a few people asked me about it. And with one of the local photography groups that I teach, they were wanting to know about it. And with COVID all being locked down and stuff, so I just went out and did it that way. Just making a quick note here. Macro wide. I'll check it out. Putting a wide lens on the wide camera could improve picture quality because the wider aperture on the wide camera compared to... Hold on. Greg, I've been listening to your podcast, Greg. Putting a wide lens on the wide camera could improve picture quality because the wider aperture on the wide camera compared to the ultra wide camera. Have you done that, Greg? I'm not convinced that would be the case. You've got me thinking now. I'm going to go buy bloody lenses now to see all this. It would seem that the S21 Ultra and the 100 times zoom wouldn't. Yep, absolutely, Pilot Shark. I totally agree with that. Do you know if Apple... Sorry, guys, lots of comments coming. Just bear with me for a second. Do you know if Apple are planning to give us back full menu control? Oh, phone's a phone. Jennifer Bright, where are you? Are you in America somewhere? How am I going to borrow your lens? Yeah, okay. I'd be interested to see that, Greg. To see, try that on your 12 Pro Max. I'm kind of curious as to how that would work. In my mind, it doesn't make sense that would work, but I'm pretty keen to see how that would work. Oh, hi, Jennifer. You can't lend me your lens. If you'd lived next door, that'd be fine. Thank you, though. So that's my very off-topic rant about external lenses. I've used, I won't lie to you, I used some when I first started teaching iPhone photography locally here in person, and I would do it at a garden nursery. And in that garden nursery, they had a lot of, they still do, a lot of succulents and little cactus and stuff like that. And I went and bought some El Cheapo macro lenses to do macro photography with those plants. So that's the only time I've really used it. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it, mate. Someone needs to do a stacking up build. 16 Sandmark lens and XR. I get that. We're talking about XR versus iPhone 11. What I'm dealing with here is phones that already do wide-angle lenses. So I'm pretty keen to see, and looks like Greg's going to shoot us an email, and I'll certainly let you guys know that on a wide-angle lens on, say, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, how putting an external wide-angle lens onto that is going to affect things. I'm not sure it's going to. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Absolutely happy to be proven wrong. My point is, you should be able to get good bloody photos out of the cameras as they are right now. Phones are phones, cameras are cameras, absolutely agree. What I will say to that, though, is so on I'd go away on my motorcycle and I go away on my bike a lot, go out camping and things like that, and I would always take this with me. This is an Olympus TG6, I think it is, TG6, something like that. The tough camera, it's like waterproof. I've thrown this thing around. I've swum with it underwater, and it takes good photos, takes good videos. It's an Olympus Micro 4/3 camera, and I bought this just to go away on the bike, and that's a camera. It gets really bad reception. You can't make phone calls with it and so forth. It's just a camera. Since this doesn't go anywhere. My wife uses this for some of her product photography when she makes soaps and stuff like that. I don't even use this anymore. I just take this. So a phone is a phone, and a camera is a camera, but the cameras on the phones are getting better and better. So anyone who's reading the comments here, there's a bloke here, Greg McMillan. If you're watching this sort of stuff and you're into podcasts, go and check him out. Now, from memory, it's iPhoneography. Greg, is that right? Just put a comment down there. And it's actually interesting. I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audio books and things like that. And Greg contacted me a little bit ago, a week or so ago, saying, hey, you want to come on this podcast? And we're having email back and forward. And since then, I've gone, there's a podcast for phones photography. And, well, I'll be honest, it's not bad. Go and have a look. iPhone photography, the iPhoneography podcast. iPhoneography podcast. Go and check it out. It's worth listening to. It's a couple of guys sitting there yakking about phones and what they can do, and some of their experiences about what they're doing out there, some of the examples and stuff. So, listening to this podcast, though, I'm assuming it's a YouTube channel as well. So it's, how do people see what you're actually putting out, as in the photos? Not all phones, absolutely. Tony, not all phones or indeed cameras are created equal. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I've totally gone off a sidetrack there, and I've forgotten what I was even bloody well talking about. They're finished. These questions. One of the things that I'm going to ask some information back from you guys here. This is a live stream, so it's not going to be perfect quality. But a few people, not on YouTube, sorry, audio only. Thanks, mate. That's the podcast, guys. Just bear with me a sec. One of the questions that gets asked quite a bit is, why am I not recording in 4K? And I'm not, because all the cameras that I have are photography cameras, because I've been a photographer for a while. And they all just record video in 1080p. I've actually got a 4K camera coming right now. I thought it'd be here by now, but it'll probably be here on Monday or Tuesday. But so videos in the next couple of weeks will start going to 4K. But I've asked a few of my YouTube friends, people who also create content on YouTube, and asked them to review the work that I'm doing and how's the quality. And they've all come back saying it's quite good, but still there's a few people asking to record in 4K. So I'm curious, is the quality of, like, the image quality that's coming out of the videos, like, you guys that are watching live streams are generally the people who are fans, if you like, people who are watching most of the stuff I do. So is the quality, in your opinion, and tell me if it's not good, like, I want to know, is it good enough that you're getting information that you want to, or not? Just put a comment down there. I'll make appropriate adjustments. Camera's a camera, phone is a phone, until I found out how to combine both into a camera. Wow. Definitely getting there. Yeah. No worries, Greg. So somebody asked a question here, Lil, 1080 is good enough. Thank you. I'm probably going to start doing 4K, mainly for the videos. Thanks, Reese. Mainly for the videos where I'm putting up photos side by side, or just showing you photos of what this phone can do. I'm guessing people are watching on televisions or something, that maybe it's not quite good enough for that. I'm not sure. The main, for me, as the person who's creating all this content, the main thing for 4K for me is that I can crop it down. It gives me a bit more artistic license, I think. Instead of being like this big, I can crop it down and move, like, compose things a little bit afterwards, and still push it out at 1080p. So yeah, Thanks, guys. I appreciate the comments back. I think 1080p is probably where it's at. The 4K recording from the video, like I say, it just gives me a little bit more artistic license. Thanks, guys. It seems to me that the comments there, and it's pretty much what I thought. The content is more relevant than the look, and you wouldn't be here to look at me because I look good. I'm not some. No, I won't get into that. It's a bit of a joke that I have with some other YouTube friends of mine. So somebody asked a little bit ago here in the comments about iPhones and having a full manual mode, and there's nothing that I've seen in the rumors and stuff that is going to suggest that the iPhone 13 will have a manual mode. And there's plenty of apps around that are manual, and I've actually sent emails now off to a few of them because they've got everything there right now. But I'm talking about Procam, Halide, Moment, those manufacturers or those app developers, and they've all got 100% manual modes on these apps, but none of them go over 1 second, and it drives me freaking nuts, and I can't work out why they don't do it over 1 second. So I've sent them off an email to say, hey, what's going on? This could certainly be a game changer for the Apple or for the iPhone if you could shoot it for increments of even 5 seconds up to 30 seconds. So we'll see what comes of that. Nothing may come of it at all, but to me, it just makes sense that you do that. Unless there's something in the iPhone's camera algorithms that doesn't let you do that. We'll wait and see. So anyway, let me just read this before I go on. Absolutely, Reese. So Reese is saying there that Apple doesn't want to make it a manual mode because they want to leave it for app developers, and that's great. But none of the app developers do it over 1 second. So the apps that I've in the video that's coming next week is Halide, Procam, Moment, Camera Plus 2, and the native camera app. And I've taken all those apps out and taken multiple photos in multiple different lighting situations of multiple different things. And you'll see it in the video. All these photos will be sitting there side by side, and you can't tell the difference. They're all restricted by what the camera can do. But if they were able to go that 30 seconds, I think for astrophotography and low light photography and creative photography, like light trails and things like that, that would be a big game changer, I think. Stepping away to do those test shots. Oh, gotcha. Thanks, mate. The last question, and it kind of segues into how I've gone with this and this. Yeah, that's a relevant point there, Reese. And I suspect it's the same thing. That's the answer I'm expecting to get back, is that the camera hardware doesn't allow more than 1 second. But it does. It does allow more than 1 second, because in the EXIF data, in the night modes, when you put them into Lightroom, it actually says in those 2, 3, 4 seconds. I've had one that says 5 seconds. No, I won't say that. I won't say 1 seconds. We've definitely seen 4 seconds though. That's how we worked out the HDR thing, as in stacking the different exposures, because one photo in night mode will have 1 second, one will have 2, another one will have 4. So it's stacking those multiple exposures. So it can go faster can go longer than 1 second. I'm just not sure why they're not. Sorry, guys, I'm just reading the comments here. Sorry, saying, is that a full frame? What's saying is that a full frame Astro will always trump a smartphone camera as it stands now, but portability trumps a full frame. I'd rather go with a smartphone. Tech is changing every day. Absolutely. Totally agree, Chris. I wish camera updates would be. I really wish camera updates would be services. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yep. iPhone 12 Pros. It depends. Editia 18. Not sure how you pronounce it. I'm sorry. it depends on what you're going from, I guess. If it was me, I'd probably wait till the 13 or the 12S, whatever it's going to be. I would wait for that. The difference between, I think Chris has asked a question there between a full frame camera and the smartphone cameras. The photos that I'm getting out of this with full manual mode, it's pretty bloody impressive. And there's obviously a lot of computational photography that's in that. It's not as simple as a DSLR with a sensor, a timer, and all you're playing with there is time and lens fix. That's all you're playing with there. And obviously a good sensor. But this is obviously bringing in a lot of computational photography. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to end up with a good image from both. And when I can carry that, and all my other cameras are packed away at the moment, they are. I can't bring you another camera here and show you, but the size difference is just ridiculous. So for me, like I said before, with this little bad boy, I don't take that anywhere at the moment. I just don't. I just take my phone and it works. Yeah, I don't. So someone's asked here about iPhone 11. You'd gladly pay more for Apple Pro RAW. I think that's a limitation on the hardware in the device, mate. I don't think you're going to get it. Moment app has a slow shutter, absolutely, and it doesn't. So Jennifer, you asked about there, and Moment has a light trails thing. I've actually done videos on that. Admittedly, it was with the iPhone 11 Pro, and I was searching and searching when I first started this channel. I was people who have been around this channel since the beginning. I searched and searched and searched for different apps to do astrophotography with the iPhone 11 Pro to get that 30 seconds. And I tried slow shutter app, and I tried Moment with the light trails and the motion blur, not so much the motion blur, but certainly the light trails. And actually the Moment app had this really hideous thatching thing across it. Basically, I was using apps for things that they weren't designed to do. I was just trying to get them to do what I wanted them to do. Some of them did it okay, but the Moment app just didn't do it that well. The Moment app and the slow shutter app worked incredibly well for light painting, and they do. They work. That's what they're for. They worked really, really well for that. But for astrophotography, not so much. What I found in all of the apps that I tested, and I'm talking about slow shutter, talking about Moment, there was definitely others. I can't think of what they were offhand. And all of those, I definitely tried them for astrophotography and just found them to be nothing compared to what night mode on the native camera app was. That's just the way it worked. But by all means, go back through the back catalogue, if you like, of videos. I know that I did those videos earlier in the piece, so they might be like the 10th or 20th sort of video that I did when I first started this channel. So it's probably 10 months or so ago. I tried those apps and they just didn't work. I'm going to try the Moment app in the light trails mode with iPhone 12, but I suspect it's not going to do as good as what the night mode will do anyway. Do a similar hold on. I think there's an app that uses video feed from iOS to expose a frame for longer. I don't know if that's going to be a 30-second shot though. Yeah, I use Filmic Pro to video a fair bit as it is right now, mate. Yeah, yep. They do a similar stacking thing to get the long exposure. Sorry, Reese, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. There's a lot of comments coming. Oh, wait there. Oh, wow, there's a lot of comments here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no answering anything that you're talking about there. I agree to a point there, Tony, about Astro on a phone is great, but you've got to adjust your expectations to what you can achieve on a DSLR. and on both sides, when you've got phones and you've got camera manufacturers, they're both getting better with the technology that they're producing. And I've always said, ever since teaching people to take photos with a phone, where the phone is now is pretty much where a DSLR was probably 5 to 8 years ago. And that's what your expectations should be. And if they're beyond that, if you're running out there with an A7R and taking photos of the stars, and then running out with the S21 Ultra, you'll be disappointed with that if you think it's going to match that. And just they're different. They're different animals. I was talking about them. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, got you, Reese. Yep, it is 1 second thing. So you can see that one. So what Reese was saying there, a stacking sort of a thing. The Moment app, it stacks the images, and it does. You can see that with light trails. They may have fixed it, but light trails with vehicles, I've done some videos on that. Oh, not some videos. I've done some testing on that, and I didn't think it was that good. Like you'd see like dots of light as the tail light went across the image, and it wasn't a smooth light like you would get on a regular camera, which just stays open and catches all the light. I think that the camera on the iPhone opens and closes the shutter for that long exposure, and it stacks them afterwards. We can use camera in Lightroom, yes. Camera, probably. So yeah, you can certainly take raw photos with Lightroom and other apps, but none of them go over 1 second. And the timing for astrophotography is the key here. And if they don't go over 1 second, it's pointless doing it. Now, you could implement. But it could well, mate. It could well be a software limitation. I'm really surprised that none of the app developers around manual camera modes have got around this yet. So I'm not sure. We shall see. We shall move on. So these live sessions with the questions. Oh, don't get me wrong, I really like the questions, but as I go through my list of things that I want to talk to you guys about, I get sidetracked. It's like something bright and shiny over here. Apple Camera API probably doesn't support the longer than 1 second. You're probably right. You could well be right. I don't know. It seems to me if that was the case there, Ankesh, if that was the case, you would think that they wouldn't limit it, because it opens up a great massive amount of other sort of photography, and it would really compete heavily with the other manufacturers who have got that. It doesn't make sense that they would limit it for a profit sort of monopoly, as you say there. German RC bashing. RC bashing. Is that remote control, you mean? Like you're RC car racer? Does it make a difference for nighttime photos when you disable HDR? No, someone asked that earlier, mate. It doesn't make a difference. I've tried both. It just doesn't. But anyway, moving on. Moving from this to this. You would have seen the video. There's a number of things that I'm just not happy about with this. You're an RC car racer. We're going somewhere with this. I've got a story to tell you if you are. So there's a few things. Yeah, the question here about seeing is pretty keen to see if Pixel is going to have a. I'm not sure if you guys can actually read those comments or not. I'm not sure. Actually, you should be able to. You're not sure if the Pixel. You want to see if the Pixel is going to have a better camera. Well, the rumors, as I said way early in the beginning, the rumors around Pixel has historically been like overbearing. There's always been so many leaks. It was like a freaking sieve. But this time it's not as much. So I suspect there's going to be a better camera. It's only a suspicion. There's nothing in there that I've seen officially. There's a few people that are saying they're going to use this Sony sensor, which is pretty good. And if it is, it's probably going to be near impossible to beat as far as astrophotography goes. But there's nothing really out there yet that I've gone, it's probably going to happen. It's possible, but then again, anything is. So you guys know that I do I do this, obviously. I do this YouTube channel. I'm a photographer, so I shoot weddings and I shoot like dead balls, which are it's an agricultural thing. It's kind of like graduation, sort of. I shoot family photos. I do a lot of corporate work as well, like corporate photography work. Because I live in a really small town, you can't. It's pretty hard to rely on just that for an income. So I work on a dairy farm as well. So which is one end of the spectrum to the other. One's dealing with clean sort of photography hardware, and the other is like walking through cow shit and putting your hands into greasy engines and stuff and fixing engines and things like that. So it's a broad spectrum of things that I do. And you would have seen when I talked about this phone, moving over to this phone, that fingerprint sensor there. On the Google phone, wherever it is, it's over there. It's actually got the dedicated thing on the back, dedicated sensor on the back, and I've never ever had that fail. It's always worked perfectly. It's something that on that phone that I absolutely loved it. You could put your finger on that sensor when it was in your pocket, unlock it as you're pulling it out of your pocket. It's pretty cool. Whereas I find that this works when I've been working with my hands, and I don't mean my hands are covered in grease and dirt and stuff like that. I mean, I've just been working, so I might have some dust on my fingers and stuff like that. The bloody thing doesn't work. The fingerprint sensor, and I've done this. I've put in. I've tested it a few ways. I've gotten rid of all of the fingerprints that are registered on it, and I've only used this thumb, and I've registered it 4 times, the same thumb 4 times, and still I get occasions, and I'm going to say 1 in 4 times, 25% of the time, it doesn't bloody work. And you push it and move your finger around a little bit more. Then I lick my finger and try it again. Then it works. It's a bit flaky in that regard for me, for the work and the lifestyle that I have. So I'm in between changing the way I unlock that phone. I don't like having my phones totally unlocked. I used to do that, but I've got all my bloody banking and stuff on there now, so I tend not to do that. And the face recognition thing, that obviously works, but these days with bloody masks and all that sort of business, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So I might end up having to go back to a PIN number thing. I'm not sure yet. That sort of thing I'm not that keen on. It doesn't work, and it fails enough that it pisses me off. So that's certainly something that I'm not happy with. I've got a video coming out very shortly. It's not the next one, it's the one after. And I started talking about this earlier in the piece, and it's the night mode. Absolutely. The rear fingerprint reader on those pixels is just bloody awesome. It's one of those things that I think if you could get on the Apple phone, if you had a fingerprint sensor here and you had full manual control and a periscope lens like it does on this, that would be the unbeatable phone, I think. We're not there yet. The night mode between these two, and this is the last thing I've got to talk about before I go through any other questions, then I'll leave you guys be. The night mode between these two, the only saving grace with night stuff for this is manual mode, in my opinion. I've taken that many photos over the last 2 weeks of these two phones side by side, doing night mode on this and night mode on this, and this just shits all over this. It does such a better job than what this does. Randomly, this is more consistent in what it does, as in the iPhone is consistent every time. I'm talking about handheld stuff here. I'm not talking about putting on a tripod. I'm talking about walking around in pre-dawn and pulling the phone out of my pocket, going night mode and taking a photo handheld like this, and doing exactly the same thing with this. And this is just so much better. It's 100% consistent in what I get out of this, and this is as good as this randomly. And when I say randomly, I'm talking maybe 15 to 20% of the time, it's as good as what the iPhone is. The rest of it, it's just not near it, which is unfortunate. The saving grace, obviously, is putting it on a tripod and taking manual photography, but we don't always carry a tripod on us. So anyway, stay tuned for that. That was something that I found to be pretty bloody disappointing. The other thing that I have found is, so I don't play games and stuff like that. My day-to-day is taking a fair bit of video. I take a lot of like B-roll video for videos that I do. I use some of them now and then, and some of them will just never get seen by anyone. But I take a lot of photos. I listen to books. I listen to podcasts, and believe it or not, make phone calls, social media, that sort of thing. And this will last me probably 2 days between charges. And this I need to charge at least every day. Sometimes I need to plug it in whilst I'm still at work. So the battery in the iPhone, I think, is better than, for what I use it for at least. The iPhone battery lasts longer than what the Samsung battery does. That's what I have found with these two things so far. The photography on both of these things, the general day-to-day run and gun sort of photography, they're both very good. You couldn't be disappointed with either of them. This one is, I find, to be very saturated. It's overly saturated compared to the iPhone. The iPhone tends to be, in my opinion, sharper than what this is. But realistically, you wouldn't be disappointed with any of them. Let me just read some of these guys before I head off. Greg, I just got your email. Haven't looked at it yet, but it might be relevant to this, actually. So, how's this for entertaining viewing? You're watching me read an email. What I'll do with these two photos, if it's all right with you, Greg, I'll put them on the community posts on my YouTube channel. So that everyone can see what you've just sent me. It's interesting to look at. I'll read what you've read there, mate. I don't want to sit here reading emails in front of these people watching. It's not really, it's not the right thing to do. Let me just read through these comments and we'll get out of here. Nothing beats yep. Really good channel, by the way. Thanks, man. Another winter You guys are getting locked down again. You guys are going through some hard stuff over there in the UK. It's over here. It's here with COVID. It's here in Victoria. Ever since when this thing first kicked off at the end of 2019 and started through China, as in we started getting reports of it from China. I remember saying to my wife, because on the news it was talking all about it's the enemy that's going to destroy us all and all this sort of business. And being an ex-infantry guy, I said to my wife, I said, well, we'll be fine. We're on an island. It's the best defence you could possibly get. Yet it's here. And all the government started talking about it's the enemy and we need to treat this enemy like we would treat any other enemy. I'm like, well, we're an island. we shouldn't have it here. Anyway, we got it here, and we went through in Victoria here. We went through a pretty harsh lockdown. We were locked down for about 3 months, I think, where people weren't even allowed to leave their houses. Which, for someone like me, where we live here, we're about 3 hours drive from Melbourne, maybe 4 hours drive from Melbourne, and we had one case. Oh, very remote where we live here, and that's just like Australia. We're on an island. But where we are here is where we had one case where we are, and it was about 25-minute drive from where I live. And this was a person who came back from overseas, went, I'm a bit crook. He isolated, got tested, stayed isolated. It didn't go anywhere. So we had nothing here. So as far as where I live here, we really haven't been affected by it at all, besides the government in Melbourne, 4 hours away, saying we couldn't leave our house. So that's how we were affected. And for us here, the way that it is now, the feeling here in Australia is that, like for traveling and stuff, interstate traveling, like traveling within the country, the feeling generally is that we're not so much scared of COVID. We're more scared that the state governments are going to close the borders again and we get isolated somewhere. That it's a bizarre thing. Like, we watch the news and we see what you guys are going through all over the rest of the world, and over there in the UK, it's crazy to think that that's happening. For us here, we're pretty lucky in that because we're on our own, we shouldn't have it at all. But I was just reading what Tony had to say there, and you're going through another bloody lockdown. It's crazy, man. I feel for you. Any tips for quicker moving? Yeah. Always found you're a pixel. Yeah. Less so on the S21. So the S21, there's a gesture. So the question was about shooting. Look at that, a bloody thing unlocked straight away. The S21, the question was asked about shooting pets. That didn't sound right. Like sport shooting, like fast. Don't shoot your pets. That sounded really bad. Point and shoot, like action photography sort of thing. Now, I remember, there it is there. So you've got the burst mode on the S21, and it's just hold on to the button and pull it down. No, that's recording. Pull it down like that, and that's bursting away right there. And then, so I'm going to have a lot of photos of that. And that, to be honest, I don't do a lot of that, but that's how it works on that. Is that how you're actually doing it there? Who asked that? Scott, is that how you're actually shooting that like that in the burst mode? Then you can go back and pull out the photos that you want. Sweet as. I'll just wait and see if he comes back. He may not even be here anymore. Bloody hell, I've been going for an hour. Maybe he's not coming back. But that's how you shoot the S21 like burst mode. It wasn't great. Okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure, dude. Might have to have a look at that myself. I know with the so you're using obviously the S21 Ultra and the burst mode. I haven't done any of that. I'm going to be honest. Has anyone else actually tried that? Has anyone else used the S21 Ultra to shoot fast-moving subjects? And how was it? The light that you're shooting in there, Scott, is it darker or is it lighter? Like, is there good ambient light where you're shooting that? I've got a feeling that will affect it. We'll see. There's 17 of you. 17 of us here waiting, Scott, to see what you say. While he's waiting, guys, I'm going to put those photos. Greg came back. I'll put the photos that he's taken with the, is it a moment lens? Yep, moment wide versus standalone ultra wide angle lens. I'll put them onto the community post there, and you guys can see. And that should answer some questions, hopefully, for what we had. You showed latest phones and GoPros good enough for astrophotography for their weight. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, because Ankesh, we're just saying down the bottom there about the weight of the DSLRs, and they don't carry them with them anymore. It's funny because in the last 12 months I've done virtually no paid photography work. It's only just started kicking off again now because we weren't allowed to do anything. So it's funny that the very first photo shoot that I did was 4 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and I pulled my camera out on the job, and I'm like, oh man, how do I do this again? So it wasn't like you forgot, it was just so unfamiliar. Whereas before I'd be doing a few jobs every day, and it was just second nature, a muscle memory almost. And you're watching the numbers and you go, that's not going to work, this is not going to work. And it was such a slower shoot because I hadn't done it for so long, because it's all been about these. And honestly, with some of the work that I do, and I've always said it, when the 12 Pro came, actually when the 11 Pro came out, I remember saying to people, I could go to weddings and shoot weddings with this, I think. It's only that people expect you to have a big camera. Scott may not be coming back out as far as how much light was there, but it's certainly something that I'll look at with the S21 Ultra and the burst mode and fast moving subjects. I might, next time I go down to the farm and have a look at some calves and stuff, because they move around pretty quickly. So I'll have a look there. I know he's come back. I've just found him to be inconsistent. I do a lot of my photos on hiking trips with my dog. Light can be good. But say I turn around, the dog is running by a brook. I'll try and grab a shot and it's off. Okay. Maybe it's slower to get going. Is that maybe the case? Maybe. It's like riding a bike. I thought you were going, Pilot Sharks. I thought you were going. Anyway, guys, I'll certainly give that a go with the phone, with the S21 Ultra, with the burst mode and the action sort of photography, and see what that is. It could just be a delay, a slower shutter, so it's blurry. It's interesting. I'll give it a go, mate, and I'll certainly come back to you and let you know what I find. All right, guys, that's it for me. It's now 20 to 8 in the morning on Sunday morning here. Saturday morning. Don't get ahead of yourself. And the sun's looking pretty good. I'm probably going to go for a scoot on the bike. And the bike you'll see in a video coming up shortly. I've got a new bike. You saw the Triumph Tiger a little bit ago, and you'll see my new bike shortly. Anyway, guys, you have a good day, and I'll catch you later. See you later.